Okay. Good afternoon. This is Senate Institutions. We are here on January 23rd. And we have Joe Aja, who's the Director of Design and Construction, Department of Buildings and General Services, also known as BGS. And he's going to complete the presentation on current projects that he began the other day. And I think we all know each other, so we'll skip the introductions and just get started. So the floor is yours.
Wonderful. For the record, Joe Aja, Director for Design and Construction with Buildings and General Services. I'm bringing it up now. Where we left off, I believe our next one up was going to be R22. We did stormwater in the R. Yes.
Yes, we haven't completed stormwater, unfortunately, but we've completed.
We completed this
discussing
one
that.
for the stormwater projects for us.
Yes.
So up next is R22, it's refrigerant. R22 and other refrigerants that are out there are being banned now on the federal level and taken out of play. And so we have a lot of air handling units that have R22 refrigerant in them. The problem going to the newer refrigerants is they're at higher pressure. So what we're having to do is you just can't change out the refrigerant. You're actually having to replace the units in the lines that go back and forth between the two units. And so that this is the funding to help us get ahead of that to do that. So when we do take a unit offline, we collect the refrigerant to reuse it elsewhere. So if there's a small little leak, something like that, we can reuse that refrigerant someplace else. Our contractors or even some of our BGS HVAC technicians are able to extract it, clean it, and then reuse it again. So wherever we can, we are, but there are times when it just can't be done. The unit's too far gone, it's not repairable, so then we're having to replace this. Unfortunately, we have a tremendous amount of units that are out there that have to be replaced. And this coming year, there are other refrigerants that are now being also banned, and they're one that we use is R410A, but there's a R134A and R407C. So as these refrigerants that are regulated hydrofluorocarbons that are being done away with, we're seeing this change. I don't know if it's ever going to come to an end as we start getting greener and greener, but at least we're getting ahead of using these funds to get ahead of what's out there. So the ones that expensive R410A, that's going to have, we don't know how many units we have out there as we do with the R22. There are some bonuses we had, some of the units here with that flooded in Montpelier, 133 State Street, with 9 State Street. Those units were R22. They're in our list because we're down on temporary units. So we purchased new units to go back in. Of course, they will be in today's newest refrigerant that out there that we're using, so we don't have to change those out anymore. So they're coming off of our list, and other ones will go on that we'll start tackling. So, and those are some of our largest units that we have out there. But they're everywhere. Heat pumps, and everything. So that's what this is for.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Art and state buildings, buildings and general services, first houses, all the art that is coming out of the Arts Council. They're the ones who run this. They're the Arts Council discusses with the commissioner of the BGS as to what buildings are coming up to do the art in. And they have recently increased the buildings, the types of buildings that they can go into now. So now correctional facilities, mental health facilities are on that list. It's not just state office buildings. This here's a photo is a sculpture done for the Roxbury Fish Hatchery. And the funding, the $75,000 that is out there now has been set for in FY24 at the Northwest State Correctional Facility, the booking expansion that is in design or will soon be in design. And then we have the Department of Children's and Families at the Virgin site, the juvenile facility. So the funding for this past appropriation, those were the projects that are going to. The art has not been picked yet. There's a selection committee that the Arts Council does. When they pick it, they pick a location. Normally they're trying for, a location that's accessible by all, but it doesn't always work out that way when you are going into some of these other facilities that are locked. But it is for, people that are also in the buildings. Newport State Correctional Facility, we have a boiler replacement project that we're doing. This here's a chunk boiler. And the chunk boiler, chunk wood boiler is fed by the incarcerated individuals. Back when the facility opened and this was online, they actually brought in log length wood and the incarcerated individuals were to cut it up, block it, and also feed the boiler. Some of the issues now are the types of individuals that they have, and also in there, they're not running chainsaws and likes of that, plus the additional officer time that's needed to be overseeing these people both inside running chainsaws, and then through the 24-hour cycle when the wood boiler is operable, they are feeding it with wood. So you have, I don't know if the shifts were, but two incarcerated individuals going up in the night, an officer watching them, and they also have to then go outside, go to the woodshed, bring it in, all that good stuff. So we did a study last year, and we did a life cycle cost analysis as we're required to do, and we found that wood chips would be the best for this location. So we'll be soon going out there for design to actually do that. And where and how does it fit on that site? It is a tight site.
Okay, I have a question. So you'll probably have one of those big silos, basically, that storage for the wood chips.
There'll be some type of a storage facility for the wood chip, not necessarily a silo, because wood's very moist. Wood chips are moist, up to 50% moisture. So if it was just in an uninsulated silo.
Well, they look like a
freeze and
silo.
chunk.
I mean,
Some are silos,
yeah.
bunkers, whatever. Over here, they're indoors and whatnot, tempered space, so that the moisture doesn't.
Measure mold.
And what's the plan right now as far as, are they gonna keep on burning wood or do they have any wood left? Because
There's wood up there, and I believe they are burning this year. Last year, I don't believe they burned, part of the construction that was going on in there and doing stuff like that.
I just think I'll see you after.
Yeah, but this year, and I can reply back to you, that I don't know if they are, the intent was to burn this year.
Okay.
I haven't been up there.
Yeah, so it's just the goal,
Okay.
The former Southeast State Correctional Facility, this was to do another evaluation of the site and looking at all the potential future uses, state uses, and also whether or not we could deactivate and winterize some of these buildings. There is full occupancy of the site is not being used. It is slightly used by public safety right now for their canine training. But otherwise, they're sitting there semi-mothballed. There's still water to them, heats to them, electricity's to them because there's a fire alarm sprinkler system, likes of that, almost ready to go back into play for whatever we would need a building for. Not just in the correctional facility, but that was what the study is for, and we have not gotten to that yet.
When you say it's almost, what's the?
Well, because it was a correctional facility, the doors are locked to keep you in. But in a situation that nobody's in there now, if somebody were to break in, all of the doors now are free egress. So some of that meant that, some of these correctional facility doors, you gotta just put a regular door hardware on them, so they've been disabled. And so it's not like you could, say tomorrow we could open it back on, turn the lights on and use it as a correctional facility. There would be some things that we would have to put back into play. Yes.
And has that study started yet?
It has not. There has been other studies about it, others looking at it, and we're working on getting it together.
I just have a couple questions because my recollection is that we didn't come to a clear decision on what we did want done at that site, just because there's multiple folks who are interested in the site. I'm thinking maybe this committee should at least have that conversation before you start the study, so that you don't go down a,
But I think it is looking at all the other ones that are out there. I think it's sort of putting that assembly together and what it would take to deactivate or winterize the building. So I know we did.
okay, just that one portion,
Yes.
deactivate and winterize.
Yeah, and also I think, is there any other potential future use for by the state
Okay,
as opposed to outside entities, so, selling it? We did look at it last year. That the Windsor area, they were looking at it and they were basically looking at having the whole site leveled. It's like, well, then it's more valuable for sale if we got rid of all the buildings as opposed to leaving some up. So I think that's what, can we take some of these offline? And what would that look like? So we'd have to talk to fire safety, to disable, shut off the sprinkler system and the likes of that.
can you send us the scope of this study, please, before you begin?
Mhm.
If that doesn't,
Yeah.
mess up your time, your schedule. Sergeant Ingalls, do you remember the, direction we wanted to go last year? I thought it was
I know that,
kind of fluid.
we, were at the last of their negotiations with house, institutions and corrections that, we had agreed to at least, mothball some of the buildings, but I think that the discussion was that we would not tear any buildings down. Because why bear the cost of that if you have somebody that comes in and wants to buy the site? Let them make that decision, let them factor it in, and then at that point in time, you could say, if you did. And so I got another thought on that, which I'll go back to it. If you ever did get to a situation to where somebody wanted to buy that, let them tell you what they want. Let them say, well, listen, we'll give you this much, but we don't want this building, and this building. Because the next person's gonna come in and say, well, you know what, we want that building, and we want that building, and we want that building, and we'll give you this much. And so I think it was just trying to get it to a point to where we weren't spending the amount of money we were to keep it winterized or keep them heated. But, and I just want to make one other point. And correct me, Joe, if we're not right with this. I don't think we've ever marketed the buildings for sale. And I don't think that we've ever had anybody come with a checkbook and saying, we would buy this for this.
Right.
I don't know. I'd have to check Eric Pembroke to find out whether or not we did put it up for the market. I know we've had people looking at it for one reason or another, but some of the people have come through that didn't want certain buildings. Some of these buildings are all on one boiler. They're all interconnected. And that was part of the problem that, we don't want to be paying for these. It's like, well, that's part of the deal. So I don't know if we actually put it on the market as a sell it or not. But we have had, we had back in the day, we had a hemp farmer come forward and, like the idea of the fence. There are a lot of people don't like the fence. But then again, I think that was the same individual who didn't like the fact that some of those buildings, they didn't want to be paying for the heat. It's like, well, that's has to be that way.
I think while you're talking about all that stuff, Madam Chair, I do agree at some point in time that we ought to have a community come in, because there has been just bits and pieces about what they want and what they don't want.
Yes.
We ought to have the community come in and say, well, we're not going to give you a hard time if this happens.
Mm-hmm.
But if this happens over here, we're going to fight you tooth and nail. But we never have gotten to that point. I don't think that it's really ever. I think there's been, like, Madam Secretary was in the other day, and we made reference, and I don't want to put it that this is how many studies there's been on it, but there's been a lot of studies, 5, 6, 7, 8 studies on it. But I don't think it's ever got to I think what you're looking for is the scope of something, as far as, what could we do with this thing? What would be allowed there or whatever? I think there's been just such a big part of this right here that's been just compromised to give somebody something over here to appease them. So that, we don't do this or we don't do that, but I don't think that I think we've just spent a lot of money trying to appease one another, but we've never come up. First of all, does the state want to sell it? Second of all, does the town want to own it? Third, who wants to buy it? Fourth, what do we do? There's just so many other things that could go.
Yes, yes. So I think before we spend $100,000 for a study, let's talk about it again in this committee at least. And I'll talk to Representative Emmons to coordinate. So if you could, or are you able to compile all of the information? Like what I'm thinking about is the recent studies and anything old that's relevant.
Yes,
And
we'll get you something,
Okay.
we'll put it together.
okay,
Yes.
thank you. Did you have something, Senator Major?
No, Senator Ingo kind of answered it, and the fact that how much the municipality has been involved in this, although it is state-owned facility.
We had a nice
Right.
group in, we had a
Oh.
nice group in, and they wanted to do some stuff. They had a nice plan. But that's all it was. It was an idea,
Yeah.
but they hadn't gone to the town. They hadn't raised any capital. They hadn't talked to anyone about the state to whether they would even subdivide because they didn't want to own it all. And they had no money.
Right. Well, and now my understanding is, my recollection is that that was the regional commission. And that was what they were asked to do was look at some conceptual designs. Because it is really valuable property, especially in a place where we need housing, because it has water and sewer already there, which is, so actually with the home bill and Act 250 changes that we made, there's even more that can be done there now than could have been done even just a year ago. So, so we can, I think it deserves our time and attention.
I agree.
Okay, great.
That's the end of the section 2 bonded section. And now we go into section 18 for the capital expenditure cash budget projects. I think if you're following along in the spreadsheet, it's the last page. Section.
And what building is that? It looks like the building in Montpelier.
It is not. This is Asa Bloomer in Rutland.
Okay.
And first up on this one for the cash fund is planning, reusing contingency. That was also in the bonded portion of it also. And again, this is for the planning to get out there and strategically, try and look at things in advance to where other agencies, department needs are and where we should be going, and trying to formulate a good idea of the scope and an estimate to put forth for a request. And then in reuse is all about, I think I used the last example was the cafeteria that we had over 133 that had been offline for quite some time, and reuse funds to try and get that back up and running, but the flood took it out. And we use some reuse funds also just recently here when BGS Security, we fit up the portion of the first floor at 133 State Street. It was not being used by Ledge IT. And that was to fit that space, and they moved into that because they had overgrown their space. So it's things like that where we use the reuse funds. And then contingencies are used on projects up to $100,000 when we do have an overrun that's above our funding source. So that comes through in today's world with the material prices and labor costs coming in. And some of the unknowns that you find in renovations of older buildings and likes of that. That's what that fund is for.
Just a question on how you do the accounting, because this is perfect in my opinion for cash funding, this kind of work. Do you, if you spend out of this account, do you charge it to the project account if it's for a particular project?
So normally this is for contingency, yes.
Okay,
For reuse and planning,
yeah, no,
it doesn't.
I wasn't-
The contingency, yes, that
yeah,
would
the
go
continues,
to
yeah.
that project.
Okay.
Yes, it would. Yes.
Thank you.
So the accounting is there for that. Perry McFarland building re-roof and brick facade repair. So we're on the construction on that building. It's well on its way. As you can see here, this is a parapet on looking at the roof. So the parapet has been deteriorating over a number of years. Some of it is water being driven in from the rain coming in at an angle, and it's just 3 feet thick. With a parting on there, it's trapping the water. There was also moisture coming up from the roof leaks that we were having, and then there was an issue, as you can see, between the top coping stone and the parapet itself had to be reworked. So all that has been redone. The exterior has gone through most of the brickwork. Now has been repointed. I don't think it's been done since the day it was constructed. And so that has all been looked into. Just recently, this fall, when we were taking off what was known as the sun porches, as an integral wood gutter that we knew was rotting, and it was part of the project to replace the roof and also the gutter. But once they stripped the roof off, basically everything was holding itself up because the joists were also rotten. So they've been reworking and doing that also. And then we have the heat recovery units. We're looking to be replacing in the springtime also. Hopefully save us some energy by getting those back online.
Okay, questions? I don't think so.
Burlington, 32 Cherry Street, parking garage repairs. This one here is a courthouse, mainly in this building, and it's also an enclosed parking garage, so it's down under. It's not an open vented, and salt is not our friend. So when the salt is dripping off from your car, it gets down into the concrete. And if it does start penetrating concrete and getting into the reinforcing steel, the rebar, it rusts and expands. And as you can see in this photo here, there's a section of it that is actually popped off. So that's going to go through and expose all of the rusted rebar everywhere where there's loose concrete, peel that off, clean and replace the rebar, and then party it all back. And this is still while courts are going operating upstairs. So it's going to be a bit of musical chairs of blocking off an area and working in that area, and also working around the court schedule to do this. So we ready to bring a construction manager on board to help us out in this endeavor. So we're certainly just completing the design development phase, doing the construction documents, and I'll be trying to formulate those things as to, how to proceed, which areas first, and what we can get done.
Great.
Middlesex Central Services roof replacement. This is the lower slope roof that you see here in the photo. This is over the BGS print upholstery shop. The equipment down in the shop space, some of that, the copiers and print machines that they have are, $500,000 plus for each unit. And so we've been chasing leaks for years. We have not been able to truly find them. The copper has pitted in a lot of areas. If you look at the right-hand side, there's some little gray strips filling down through. That used to be a snow guard that much snow just couldn't hold the guard, so it fell right off.
Oh, my.
So they've been patched, and so but we cannot find where the water is leaking in. It's not just happening in the winter when, you think because of the thaw pitch it's coming into the seams. It happens during a heavy rainstorm. So we're just not sure. And so what we're doing is we're completely stripping it off and put a membrane roof back on instead of copper.
Okay.
State House expansion and design. Touched on this a little bit last week. Earlier in the week, sorry. This project was funded, 600,000 of it from ARPA funds. For the design, the start of that, and we have 2 ellipses here that are showing where the work is going on. And so the blue ellipse, we're looking to create an accessible entryway that also used for screening. And the ARPA funds it was about for the next pandemic. Probably not COVID, but whatever. So there is the entrance would be a little bit larger than just a door coming in, it's sort of as it is now, with just an interlock in between the 2 doors to get you in, but someplace that somebody could be processed, whether it's for temperature or whatever else. And then the design that was coming up by the architect was to continue on through, taking out the stairs and go to the mezzanine and creating a walkway, an internal walkway down to the Lincoln corridor. So you can sort of make that loop coming through by rooms 10 and 11. And then on the right-hand side, the red ellipse is fire escape stairs because the Senate chamber only has one means of egress. It's supposed to create an exterior stairway to provide that second means.
And we appreciate y'all considering that. This committee had a tour first of a couple from David Sheets, but you showed us last session. I think it was the underground part here. I think that was
Under here?
showed us. Yeah.
The old bomb shelter, what it was called, yes.
Yeah.
That was where one of the HVAC units is located.
Right.
Basically this side of the first floor of the
I think
house.
if folks are interested, that would be a good tour to have and we'll schedule it in advance, but if you don't mind giving it to us and if you all want to see it, it's.
David did take you into the mechanical spaces and the likes of that?
Not yet. Well, it was just a tour. Yeah, yeah.
And when you do that, you guys have to see the tunnels.
Yes, because they're
Go through the
clear
tunnels.
now, right? They're not.
They're
Okay.
clear. But on both sides, nothing has transpired because we're still collecting data for that whole process through FEMA and everything else. So,
Okay. So we can schedule something. Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this?
In Montpelier, across the street, we have 120 State Street, the HVAC streamline interior renovation. Well, this building was constructed in the early 40s. And it has steam lines that run through the space up the exterior walls, comes out through each floor. It is a loop back. The pipe then extends up from the floor against the wall to the radiators. And they have seen better days. And so some of them have leaked in the past, and where we are worried about a catastrophic leak. But if it's in the floor slab, you're going in there and jackhammering up that slab to get the pipe in the exterior wall to develop and make some type of a connection. It'll be disruptive be very noisy throughout the whole building. Depends on which floor it is, which area it is, if it gets back people going to DMV and the likes of that, for several days. Make that happen. If it wasn't on the first floor, you're impacting people above and below.
But that's an important building.
Yes. And so what this does also, because of replacing steam and going to a hot water system on the exterior of the walls and also bringing in fresh air for the whole building. Right now, they don't have a system that does that. So it'll be for heating and air conditioning. They'll also be replacing the electrical work that's in ceiling level and new ceilings, new carpet. There's right now no intent really to be modifying any of the offices in there. Will it be an opportunity to do some minor stuff? It also needs an electrical service coming in. It doesn't meet today's code. Over the years, we have spent some money on this. We have updated the electrical through all the floors, all of the plumbing system for all the restrooms have been updated. 6 years ago, we added back entrance, new accessible entrance, and replaced the stair towers. They were exposed, second means of egress on both ends of the building, and now they're in closed set stairs.
And is this only DMV?
No, ADS, Industry Digital Services, and Human Services.
Okay. Is it completely occupied?
Yes.
Thank
The BGS is also in the basement. We have our district facility offices down there. Pittsford, at the Pittsford Academy, we have some major renovations that we're going to do to the admin building, the West Cottage, and the arcades. The arcades are not shown here in the picture, are curved structures that go out to the east and west cottage. They are non-heated space. This building doesn't have, it was originally sanitary. I forget when the state purchased the land And it has seen better days. There have been modifications to the structure over the past that didn't do it too well, but it still has some knobbing to wiring in the place, so that makes it difficult to do any extension for, window air conditioner, like that. The elevator is old, some of the plumbing is old, and so it's really about rehabbing the whole thing back. Several years ago, we did the East Cottage. The East Cottage was renovated on their walls, on the interior side of the exterior walls, new insulation brought up to the energy code, new heat pumps, air conditioning, some new windows, retrofitting all, and that's what we're looking to do with this space.
And is the 750,000, is that for actually
Design.
doing, that's just design?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was thinking that looks not a lot.
DCF, Department of Children and Families, their short-term secure stabilization. This here's a architectural rendition of what they're looking to potentially build at the Regen site. So right now we're working with the design and it's a design build. So we're working with that team to be putting this together at the same time. We're also working with City of Virgins on a zoning change. It's right now low density residential in the flat piece of property that the state owns that we're looking to construct this on.
And this, I think we haven't seen this picture before. I don't remember seeing it. I mean, it's nice looking.
Probably last year when we were presenting, we didn't have that yet.
Okay.
And that's probably why. So we.
Oh, yeah, no, it's just, it's good. But so can you talk more about what this is going to replace? I mean, I think I know, but I'd rather hear it from you.
DCF would be the best one. But the short side of that really is the Woodside facility.
Okay,
Presently we have 4 beds. DCF does down in Middlesex. That used to be the MTCR, and that was mentioned.
and you mentioned
earlier.
that, or somebody mentioned that the other
So
day.
they're temporarily there until this facility can be.
And how many beds is this one?
16.
16, 16. Okay, so would kids who are in other states be,
That's a DCF question.
okay. Okay. When would this be finished? Completed?
Not 100% sure. I mean, probably a year and a half.
Okay,
The problem is first we're gonna get through zoning and then complete our design and construction. So,
it seemed like it would be a quicker one than most of the projects.
yes. That was part of the intent of this, was the speed of getting out using the design.
Design build, but they already have the property and they've used that property for similar.
The Old Week School,
I
now
thought so.
used by the Job Corps, with the state leases out multiple buildings from that site to the Job Corps to use. So there's uphill of that.
Okay. Thank you.
In Barry, we have the Washington County Superior Court renovation. This building was built in 1983. And it's on an angle to the main street. And the reason for that, it was an open office, and there's some of the windows open to allow the air to cut through and cool you off at night. It exhausts, the windows are left open. And the exhaust fan suck the cool air in as it exhausted the warm air. However, over time, offices were built along the exterior walls and even on the interior, so that airflow doesn't happen. And I think even with our climate today, and it's 90 degrees out and 70% humidity, it wouldn't work as well as originally designed in the 80s.
So just let me get this straight. So their HVAC is open a window.
Back in when this was originally constructed, yes, except that there's a floor and a half that judiciary is in. They got air conditioning back then. The other 2.5 floors were left of natural airflow coming through with no AC. Had heat. Those have heat. Now, this flows a little bit old because if you drove by today, the upper floors, every other window, you would see a window air conditioner sticking out of it, and that is how it is cool right now. So this overhauls the whole thing for both judiciary HVAC, electrical, everything to bring this up to today's standards and codes. And like I said, the aluminum storefront, all the windows, the doors, you know, they're from 1983. They're past their life expectancy. So we'll be doing that along with other energy upgrades.
So it says renovate or build. Sounds like.
Well,
you're-
what we
you
have
chose
looked at, and the
renovate.
reason it says that is to renovate an existing space that has an operating court in it is very difficult. Again, like 32 Cherry Street, you have to work around the court schedule. Area is one of their busiest courts and very difficult. And in this climate right now of labor, finding someone to work just straight nights is difficult and more expensive. So one of the theories was, could it find land, and we did a land search that didn't turn up much, to go build new someplace else, whether it involved everybody that's in the building, because there are other entities in the buildings besides judiciary, or just move judiciary out and they're in their own space and then retrofit the rest of the building for the people who are there and anybody else in my space and vary. So that's why that statement is in there.
Okay,
So
thank you.
the special teams facility and storage, this is another building that was a plan for design build lease. Due to the cost, the Marine Division that was with public safety, Vermont State Police at Williston, they are still housed in their old Williston area because the high cost during COVID that we had, we removed their building from the new building site to save, I forget the dollar amount, with 5 million though on that. So we had to remove that. So we were looking then to go to other space to house them in. Along with that, the USAR urban search and rescue team, along with the hazardous material team, they're in a building that transportation owns in Colchester, and they've somewhat hinted at like their space back. And so there was the thought of combining them along with the fire safety division, who was also in the space of also putting them in one large building because they all really do the same thing and work together, and thought that, you know, that would work out. So we're in the process now of, you know, really defining that space, looking at the cost and the likes of that.
Okay,
Rutland Field Station, another public safety facility. Back in 2010, 2011, when we were finishing up Westminster, or actually during the Westminster Public Safety Facility process, we purchased land in North Clarendon to build the next facility. Due to the issues that for the building in Williston went first. And now we're looking back to go to the Rutland Field Station. It's already on the land. It's off of 103 and Route 7 south of Rutland. If you're going to the airport, it's laying on the left-hand side as you turn onto 103. And so we're going to be mimicking so-called cookie cutter jobs that we've had in the past. So we started building the one in Derby, we have St. Albans, New Haven, Royalton, Westminster, that are somewhat like an H-shaped building, so that you, depends on the size of the troop, you can expand them and enlarge and for not only the present size, but also in the future. Berlin was the only facility that broke that mold because we moved them into an existing building that stayed on it, was the Berlin Library, and now it's the Berlin Public Safety Facility. So they moved from Middlesex to Berlin. And so this one is up next, and that's what these funding is for, is to start that design process.
okay,
Down in Randolph Center at the Vermont Agriculture and Environmental Lab, we have a heat plant project. When that project went out to bid and first was constructed, there was a deduct alternate to remove the separate heat plant building from the project and only use steam heat from the college. And we accepted the deduct alternate, so that building was never constructed, but it's permitted, ready to go. And because of our issues with the steam coming into the building, we were looking to build that heat plant now. The issues with the college is that during the design process, it occurred that there was not a good communication between the design team and the college. But the autoclaves that are in the building require 60 pounds of steel, 60 PSI. The college has max, they're like a 50 to 60 degree range. The college can only produce us at best really 48 PSI. They have been moving along and working, it's been okay, but lately what we're having two issues. One, we're seeing a fluctuation in steam pressure. Yes, we can hit the high of 48, but then we'll drop down to 20. For the building, that's okay. The autoclave, it does not. But that up and down pressure also isn't great for it. The other thing is, during the summer, the college doesn't use their boilers. They will shut them off. So they leave one running now to provide the steam to this building. But because that building is so oversized, the boiler short cycles. So basically it just turns on, warms up just a little bit, and it has to shut off. It's constantly doing that. Instead of being the right size, the boilers like to come on and run. So that short cycling is we're getting their equipment and they're going to end up having to do more repairs on it because of that. So that was another reason why, okay, we build a separate heat plant, the one that was originally intended. Then we'd have the constant 50 to 60 PSI. The colleges would not have to be running a large boiler during the summer just for our needs.
Okay, and can you explain a little bit about what that lab does?
I did that.
Or what is done at that lab?
I don't know enough about it, but I do,
Okay.
there's weights and measures, they're testing cow's milk, a whole bunch of other things. that
Okay.
are being done in there.
Oh, so actually, the ag,
Yeah.
They used to be in Waterbury until, Irene took out the building and it got built down here.
and is this our only one like this? In the
There
state
are
or
two
only
other
that?
labs. There's a forensics lab at the Waterbury for public safety, and then there's a health lab in Colchester.
But for the environmental lab, is this the only one?
But yes,
Okay, well, it needs to work.
yes. Yes,
Great.
statewide, we're doing electric vehicle charging stations. So this is because BGS has got a fleet service that we run and we're converting over to electric vehicles. So you have state employees traveling from one building to another across the state. They'll have an opportunity that when they get there, they can charge their vehicle while they're in their meeting and then get back to their office. So that's what this is starting to do. And then at off times, with an app, private citizen could plug in and use it.
So how do you determine where you're gonna put a charging station?
That is for our energy group to fully explain, but they went out with a survey to try and find out where, state employees
Yeah.
may have a need for it, and also our fleet program. So our fleet program has, locations of fleet vehicles that are sort of like here in Montpelier and in Waterbury and more. So that would be looked at first. This is a place for it. Before the flood, there in the picture on the left is over here, 136 State Street, where there are 6, 7 heads or something like that. And it used to be all lined up with our electric fleet vehicles.
Mm.
And so, during the day, they're gone out on the road and whatnot, and somebody could slip in, do a quick charge, or at night if it's not being used. The one on the right-hand side is at the Southern State Correctional Facility. So we have them in multiple locations, and based on the fleet, that's what they were looking at, is where to place these.
So I have a question. It might be somebody else, but after design and install, then there's maintenance and really operations of the EV chargers. So what department would do? I just have some questions that I want to.
At a high level, I think our operations and maintenance groups have helped out, but our energy group would have.
Your energy group?
Yes,
Okay.
they would be able to give you any of the details on that when there's an issue, because now they're all high tech items on this.
Yeah.
They send out a note telling you that it's broken and whatnot, so.
Right, and it's actually not even really a tech question. It's just how do you make sure that they're going to be operated for years?
No idea.
Yeah, it's a contract, but I just like,
Right, it's
yeah.
a contract for, for the operating that thing and all that, but
yeah,
that would be the group of
the
to
energy.
your
people.
question.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Here in Montpelier again at 133-109 State Street. We were looking for, planning and construction for the tunnel waterproofing and Aiken repaving project. As mentioned earlier, there is a tunnel that runs between 133 State Street and 111, the Supreme Court building, and you can see in this picture here, this is looking out of the stair tower 133 over 111, and you can see where the tunnel is because it's the grass. And we have water infiltration, not really from the flood. It had been infiltrating for a number of years now. It was constructed in the late 70s for our steam lines run through there for the steam loop in the Montpelier complex. And so it's just, we have tried injecting the seams, the cracks that are in the tunnel, and it just pushes the water and it enters into a different location. So it's about really designing a fix to come up really to expose it all over and re-waterproof the exterior of this. Right now, what we're looking to do is, the FEMA is involved in part of it now, because it did flood. Not through the infiltration, it flooded from the buildings inside.
I think it flooded during infiltration, I'm not flooded.
I don't know, but so we're only doing the portion from the building to the edge of the grass. That way, because what FEMA's going to come in really for this is that to stop that migration of water. So if one building did flood, it doesn't continue on through. So we'll be looking at watertight doors. That would also mean if it did happen, because it is a long tunnel with a bend in it, you can't see to the other end, so you can actually lock somebody in. So that would be a means of egress, another means of egress out of there.
Good thought.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just have a couple of curiosity questions, but how deep is it under the ground?
We're gonna scan it at 133. It's basically just below the sidewalk. It's
Right.
not that far, probably
As I
2-3
say,
feet.
considering it's warming the ground enough to not
Yes.
smell. Yeah. When was it put in? Built?
Late 70s.
Is it for security or is it transit?
It was just for the steam loop at the time. The director at the time thought, if you're going to be building a concrete tunnel for the steam, you might as well have one that you could walk through.
Yeah.
We don't have that option to the State House or across State Street because ledge going to the State House, all ledge basically putting the steam line for that, and then going across State Street, there are just too many utilities that you could not just.
You want to be able to do a tunnel to the State House?
There is a concrete vault, if you will, running up for the steam line, but not a full size that you could fit in.
Right.
Yes.
But we'll get to go see it.
It's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool.
A lot of states and then DC, of course, they have tunnels all over the place. I mean, New Hampshire, they have their all legislators get offices across the street, and then there's a tunnel that goes underground to the State House for security, and just so legislators don't have to, walk across the street and whatnot. Yeah.
Offices would be nice too, huh? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Even an office in a tunnel.
Even Steve.
All right, thank you.
And then last up is the renovation at 111 State Street of the stack area for HVAC upgrades and elevator replacement. Personally, that's being utilized by Coop Space, the continuing operations of space, because this area that you're looking at in the photo here was the second floor in what was a library area. Part of the libraries moved to Berry, and these were the stacks that were left behind. And it's a 2-story space actually when you remove the stacks. Judiciary is in there now. They're in lease space at 112. This is part of the flood mitigation because that lease was going to expire. So we renovated this space, took out the stacks, built a couple of walls, and moved them in on a temporary basis. On the first floor, we renovated that space also. That was a stack area. And that replaced the auditorium and the pavilion, so it's just a large open area with a couple of monitors on the end wall with a bunch of chairs.
It's a great auditorium. I didn't realize that it was replacing the underground one.
It's yes, because the basements are off limits because of, the damage that was done. And it's not really a habitable space until it gets renovated.
So the basement is not renovated.
It is not. Basically, we removed anything that got wet that had to be removed, sheet rocks and likes of that.
That was a beautiful, I mean,
It was. The new one's really nice too, though. Yeah,
And the picture came out pretty good.
yeah, yeah. I think so. I mean, it looks intentional. It doesn't look like it was just to, put it up there because you had to. Good. All right. So any more questions? Well, I mean, we can see a lot of these buildings when we go on we can call it like a facilities serious tour, not a historic tour.
But there you go.
Yeah,
Boring.
no, not boring, mechanical. We'll call it a
Yeah,
mechanical
it's
tour.
mechanical.
How about that? Oh, you're saying boring. Oh, that's funny.
It's the heat plant, you haven't seen the heat plant. There's a lot to see.
All right, good.
Other places would be.
All right, exactly. All right, so I think that's good for now, good for
Okay.
today. Thank you.
You're more than welcome,
Appreciate all the
Appreciate
information. We'll see you soon.
I'm sure.
Oh, you're coming back?
I have a budget. But yes, Roger's will be kind of that.
So the Hartford courthouse, what was? We had 2 dates, we thought we were gonna do it earlier and now it's the original date. now.
Yeah, I think I messed up on the date that was on the slide being fall of 25, but what that end date could be the 26th only because of what our contractor is running into, but if we're not tearing down all the brick and I'm gonna put that back, the time frame should be split up. So it's just early on,
But September 26th.
worst case.
Worst case. Yeah. All right, because there's some issues with housing, the district attorneys, where their offices are across the.
Yeah, well, we found them space.
Yeah, I know, but
I believe-
but the landlord of previous is emailing me virtually daily.
Just gonna hold on just a little longer. So we can go.
Come back.
So I have a better idea probably, you're still here mid-May of what we're doing, because I have an idea of what we're actually doing with the facade.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right,
Wonderful.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you. Good show.
Okay, and
Thanks,
I don't think we have anything else, right?
Oh, you have something
Okay.
coming up, Maureen?